Hello, this is Lisa Steinberg from Starry Constellation Magazine. I'm joined today by Jon Heder to talk about the film Plan B. Thank you for joining me this afternoon.
Thanks for having me.
As an avid fan, of course, I would never pass up the opportunity. I'm sure you get this on every breath someone else takes that they tell you how much they love Napoleon Dynamite. So
I just got back from doing a tour of Napoleon, doing live shows. So yeah, I got a lot of that recently.
we've been supporting Napoleon Dynamite since the film actually came out. I mean, I actually interviewed Chandrella when the film came out.
Yeah.
And Ephraim as well. So it feels good to have the opportunity to talk to you today. Very, very special for me.
Awesome.
Well, we are here actually to talk about the film Plan B, and it's billed as a rom-com, but it's kind of not your average like set up meet cute type of film. Can you tell us a little bit about the premise and the story behind Plan B, please?
The premise is it sounds despicable, which I guess makes it fun because sometimes we want our lead characters to do something despicable so we can see them redeem themselves. But this kind of the lead character played by Jamie Lee is a bit of this hot mess who is on a drunk on a very strong independent woman, but on a night of in a drunken stupor, she goes to bed with her weirdo neighbor, kind of one of those one night drunken stand. I say one of those. I don't know what those are. I've never experienced that, but she has a drunken one night stand with her weirdo neighbor that she would never ever give the time of day normally, and soon discovers a few weeks later that she's pregnant, and realizes it's him, and then concocts a plan that she is going to bed a much more successful, uh, um, on paper looks much Mr. Right, someone as soon as she can to make him believe that he's the father, so that her child and herself can have a much, you know, better life with someone else than the dweeb character, and comedy ensues, and her conscience, it groans and tries to stop her, um and yeah.
Yeah, her conscious is like the third person in the relationship in a
Yep.
type of
And it's
situation.
kind of, we have voices of reason all of around her trying to tell her this is a bad idea. The audience is yelling out, this is a bad idea. You're just headed for heartbreak.
You talked a little bit about your character Evan, is his name. He's like this, this dweeb, the next door neighbor type guy, not the typical, guy that Jamie's character
Would
gravitates
go for.
toward.
Yeah.
What kind of breakdown though did you receive about your character Evan, and like how was he described? I like in the movie trailer at least. He kind of describes like Blue's Clues guy in a way.
Like Steve, he's Blue's Clues in male form. Um, he is yeah, he's just like he's kind of this grown-up child who gets excited about really lame things, is a total mama's boy. Um he's just kind of clueless, he doesn't really, he's awkward, he's clueless, um he's not smooth, and he's not great with the ladies, and he's not he's confident when he shouldn't be confident, and he's clueless when he should have a clue. um so yeah, that kind of that he's in a band, and I think that's what's kind of fun, is like, oh, that's cool. And yet we make it, he's not he's not a great musician, and he's not, um and he means well, and he likes to write lyrics, and he fancies himself like, hey, but he doesn't carry himself like a rock star at all.
He gives me like
He's obsessed with his cat.
he gives me like Michael Scott vibes from The Office in a way.
There's some, yeah, there's some moments there for sure.
We talk about the film being a comedy, and of course, we love your comedic timing from so many various projects, as we already discussed, like Napoleon Dynamite. Um, how do you usually like to play the beats of the delivery of comedy, or how did you kind of construct, at least maybe with this film specifically?
I think when you have this is the kind of script and project where you bring more of a reality to it. It's more of the situational comedy where the concept is kind of like it's it's not that outrageous. It's probably been done before on a Jerry Springer situation, like I'm sure this has been done and done successfully, and the real dad doesn't know. So it's this kind of larger than life and yet realistic concept. So you play it real. With the timing and everything, you play it real. You're not really going for like playing, physical humor, giant jokes. You just have fun with the idea of that's the concept we're trying to get across. That here is this girl in between, and you got the kind of the weirdo Arrested Development grown up man child on one hand, and you've got the much more successful, good looking debonair guy on the other hand, and so you just kind of play with that, and you have and you don't really have to go for like a crazy weird character, otherwise you might confuse the audience a little bit, and so that's what I did.
I also really love the great banter that really exists between your character and Jamie Lee's character. It brings this great organic chemistry to their dynamic as well. How did you two, I guess, kind of really develop that rapport, or did that also come organically between you two as well?
Well, I think what was really fun, I absolutely loved working with her. And she's a writer, she's a comedian writer, and she has a lot of experience in that world. And it tells because she can really, she changes a lot of the lines, does different takes. Um, so she naturally is just funny. And um, the first couple scenes with my character, there's a very big difference. And you can see it in the script, you can see it in the movie. There's the before when we're supposed to be kind of disgusted and weirded out by Evan's character. And it's played a little bit more just like, oh, cringy. And he's very again, just awkward. And you're like, yeah, I feel for her. I don't, she doesn't want to carry this guy's child. Um, but then there's a scene later on when she starts to come around, when she finds out an Uber driver for her, and that was the first scene we got to do, not together, but where we actually got to really just improv, because it's supposed to be kind of, we were trying to capture that moment, what it would feel like. It's the first time they've really talked. They've talked before, but it was always her trying to like, ooh, I don't want to deal with him. I want to get away from this situation. She had these, certain lenses on. And now she's kind of caught off guard with this, him being her Uber driver, not at all what she was expecting. So, and he wasn't expecting it either. So they kind of are both caught off guard. So you have this moment where these two people who think they know how they feel about the other are suddenly kind of thrust into this conversation that starts out light, and they start exploring avenues of like, oh, you're into this and this is what you're doing. And Evan has come to the point where maybe he is no longer hung up on her and he obsessed with her, and she maybe no longer thinks he's just a total spaz, but maybe there's more to him than she realized. And so we had fun doing that scene and a couple subsequent scenes where we just got to explore like what would it be like for these two people who are kind of like having their first date in some ways, but without any expectations. He's our Uber driver and she's his passenger. But there's something very serious in her belly that is signifying there's way more to this situation than they both realize.
I like also about the film that it kind of in two different ways, it shows you that life has a way of intervening when you least expect it. So she doesn't expect, of course, after this one night stand to be pregnant. And then you're talking about the scene where like they don't expect, like when they're in the Uber car, driving the Uber scene together, that they have this like kind of serious discussion, or they have the break in like seeing each other differently. So I like that part of the film has this great kind of like twist or premise in a way, or maybe an unexpected or
Yeah,
non-intentional, more to say, premise of like life has a way of intervening.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and I when I first read the script, I didn't know actually, I didn't get the full premise. It just says like she has a one night stand and has gets pregnant from it. Really, it was kind of like the female version of Knocked Up. And so I was like, oh, and when I started reading it, I had no idea where it was gonna go with the character. I thought, I mean, the way he read, I was like, yeah, he's a creepo, and he's going to be out of the picture. What is she going to do? Is this going to be about how she raises this child as a single, mother, or what's the situation? I really didn't know where his character was going to go, and so it definitely it took me by surprise, and I think it can take people by surprise, like that. There's more there to his character and to their situation.
We've talked a bit about working with Jamie Lee, but I'd like to talk a little bit also about the wonderful director Brandon Tamburi. It's his first time project as well, and I would like to ask a little bit about what you, I guess, have taken away from your experiences, what you've learned by working with him, or what he kind of provided as well as a supportive director guidance.
Well, I mean, I work with a lot of first time directors. I like giving them a chance and taking that risk. And because in that risk, you can have those moments of finding a new voice, seeing these different styles of directing. Brandon, he knew these characters, he wrote it, and he really, like, it was fun to he was very open, especially having both Jamie and myself, and especially Jamie, who again, she works in the writing room, and she's a comedian, very strong voice. And he was very cool with her kind of like not really changing it because the story's all there, but it's like, finding her voice in the dialogue that existed, and he was very open. That's what he wanted. He set the stage for, all right, I've got these kind of two, three main characters. Now I want them to kind of have fun with it. So it was very nice, and it was great working with him in that way because he was very liberating, and let us kind of run with it. Um and with that, we were able to kind of, as we did that, we could see, this is his vision and this is what he's trying to do.
It's kind of funny that I described Evan's character also as like sort of getting Michael Scott vibes when Kate Flannery is a part of the film, and
Yeah.
obviously we know she's Meredith in the office. So it's definitely got those elements to it as well, and I like that there's a lot of different voices. Obviously, um, you know, Brandon is male, and having this perspective of a woman's choice and her decision, and and her decision to try to flip things on these two men as well, provides a different kind of lens to the film as well.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, like, what did you experience, Brandon, in your life that brought this story about? I was like, this is a very heavy female perspective. But again, I think it was kind of perfect that he got someone like Jamie, who, could totally bring her own perspective to this project and worked really well with him. So
It had Tom Berenger in here, Shannon Elizabeth.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
they were great. And I
we're
think Michael Lombardi, who plays, the guy who the pretend baby daddy who she, sets up, does a great job of like this, once you start getting in the script and into the story and realizing his setup, he could easily be the guy. Well, no, we're not rooting for him. We don't want him to, but you feel really bad for him. And he brings a lot of heart to it that is that makes you like just feel for him. You know, two hearts are basically going to get broken. She's really setting them up, and there's times where you kind of root for him. You're like, oh, maybe this could work out, even though it's not right. Maybe we want it to work out because he's a really good guy.
Well, this project has been about for quite some time. And this isn't a 2024 film. I believe you shot it in like 2022. Is
Mhm.
that correct?
Yeah.
What kind of brings this relevance from 2022 to 2024 now? You know, how does this kind of feel still? It definitely feels still obviously
Yeah.
quite.
Well, like I mean, sometimes when you shoot these, small films, it's only like a year or so later. Of course, that's kind of typical with most even student films. It's about a year out. So I don't think too much has changed. I mean, I say luckily, but obviously whenever you deal with the like, the subject, I think has always been around, but bringing in these strong female voices and these strong female characters who are kind of addressing the whole idea of like, this is my body, this is my choice, this is what I'm going to do. She's in complete control and has the reins to this situation that she wasn't, gunning for. This is not this was not her choice of the situation, but making the best and making this decision. So it's important, that like no one's forcing her hand. She's like, nope, this is a good idea. It's a terrible idea, but she's going for it. And she learns to deal with the consequences. And I think that, that's just a universal theme. I think that can, play at any time in any, environment and climate. And so, yeah, I think a lot of those themes are still prevalent today and will always be, will be for very strongly for the next near future.
Well, besides Plan B coming out here shortly, is there any other projects or are there any other projects that we can expect to see from you soon, or things that you've been working on, either yourself as, writer or director yourself, or something that we'll get to see you in?
I have two other films that are possibly coming out this year. One being called Tapawingo, and that was a Napoleon-esque weird comedy with strange characters living in a small town. Um, and that is doing kind of the circuit, the festival circuit run right now. Um, and hopefully that will be, available to watch later this year, if not early next year, as well as I shot a movie about Marlon Brando when he bought his island in Tahiti. And so it's all about this the architect who he brings on to help him kind of realize this utopia dream on this island, and the architect who's hired to help him realize this dream. And I play the architect, and I'm very excited. Billy Zane plays Brando, and it's an amazing Brando. And that should be coming out either later this year or early next year as well. So those should be coming out pretty soon.